Alright, welcome to week. Here's my blooper for the 6 weeks. Welcome to week 6 On Deck Bible Moments. I'm sure immediately you were wondering about the title above, What Trumps Church? Thinking this was going to be a political message or something about the president, but doesn't have anything to do with him. How do we find a balance in a church or a meeting place that seems right? This week I want to help you if you believe in God and you attend, or maybe you're looking for some place to attend, what you should be looking for. The Bible tells us about what a church should be like, and this goes back to when churches were just starting out. Matter of fact, in the book of Acts, the disciples or the followers of Jesus were mentioning about visiting the churches and checking them out to see how they were running. So they must have had a feeling or saw things that the churches just weren't running right from the start. And today it's hard because I know people get offended if you suggest a better way to do things. You want to fix something and they seem that they're busy, they're stressed, they're distracted to hear about the problems. Maybe they're not even aware of the problems they have. I knew a church that was losing their congregation. They were down to 20 or 30 people, and so their budget was suffering. And so they had heard, excuse me, that there was a supermarket where you could buy gift cards. And if you bought a $50 gift card, the church would get $5 to keep. So they decided that would be the answer to their budget. So they went out and they bought several gift cards. They tried selling them to the congregation, but some of the congregation were elderly, and they didn't need $50 worth of groceries a week. So they went out into the community to sell the cards. They started contacting family and friends. If everything had worked out at the end of the year, they probably would have raised $1,800 to $2,000, but it didn't go as planned. What they actually should have been doing when they went out into the community was to ask people to come to their church. If they had built up the membership, they would have been able to reach their budget. Other life stories from churches I've attended. There was one church that had a big surge in membership, and they decided that they should get the same speaker back again a few years later. They decided too late one year because there had to be a 6-month planning period or something to get this person to come. They assigned somebody the following year, but they forgot. And so from 1977 to 2005, they never got the speaker back. After 2005, you're probably wondering what happened. Well, the speaker had passed away, so it was a little late to get him to come speak. There's some churches that preach about the USA, and that's fine, but when the messages become political and don't mention the Bible, that's something you don't want to hear every week. I've heard some preachers where they get up and they preach about a good book that they've read. So one week is about a missionary and his journeys across the globe. Another meeting might be about some book called The Mysterious Disciple. And you never do find out who that disciple was because it's the mysterious disciple. It's a mystery. Maybe somebody famous in America, a hero or something, but there's no mention of the gospel or the Bible message. There's Church of Additions, where they hire a pastor. They're able to meet their budget. They provide the pastor with housing, health care, contribute to their retirement, their salary, obviously. And then that pastor starts to add things on. Like he claims he has to work more from home. So he needs a certain internet package to work from home. Then he needs a matching one for the church so that he can work at home but then access his work at home at the church. Then he needs the same maybe package again for his office. He thinks that people up in the balcony can't see him. So if we put television sets in the balcony, they'll be able to see. Of course, they could have asked the people in the balcony to come down and sit downstairs. And it just goes on and on and on. Suddenly, there's another $10,000 a year that they can't meet in their budget, and they go back to having meeting after meeting after meeting, spending more time in meetings than their outreach program or taking care of their members. I even know a church where the pastor did away with prayer, different programs that had to do with prayer. Now don't get me wrong, there's churches that operate correctly, those that base their church on the scriptures. A lot of that has to do with the members of the church. Like in Philippians chapter 2, it says you should have kindness and compassion for one another, have the same love, thoughts, be of one mind and one soul, do everything without complaining and arguing. That cuts down on the meeting time. Be always humble, gentle, and patient. Do your best to preserve unity. Be kind and tender-hearted. Forgive one another. All the people that are involved in a group or a church should be working. There should not only be people that listen and go home, but they should listen to what the message is and then put it into use. Traditions can sometimes hurt a church. The traditions are more important than the people. Routines can hurt a church. When somebody's stuck in a routine, they serve every third, fourth Sunday, and then they decide, well, I only have to be there on those Sundays that I'm actually serving. I really don't have to be there all the time. Church gets too involved in missions, global missions, that they forget their community. They get too involved in the community where they forget their members. I once attended a church that wanted a minivan, and there had been a couple meetings. A gentleman stepped forward and said that he would pay for the minivan, about $17,000 at the time. This is going back a little ways. And there was a couple more meetings, a couple more months went by, and the gentleman said, how'd you make out with the minivan? He approached them again, and they said, oh, the minivan was too expensive, and there was insurance that had to go with it. So the gentleman walked away with his $17,000. I guess they were too distracted or stressed out or whatever, or got sidetracked in the meeting that they forgot he was wanting to make a donation. So in a church, you have to have a balance. You have to have a preacher who realizes that his job isn't just on Sundays. You have to have time for missions, time for community, time for members. Whether the members are visible or not, you have to keep track of what's going on. We've had some times where members haven't shown up. Somebody says, well, I guess they went to another church, and there's no sense visiting them. Paul and Timothy, James and John, all talked about instructions for the early churches, how everybody needed to treat each other with love, obey the Gospels, don't just listen to the Word but put it into practice. This is what helps the church grow and grows its membership and helps everyone feel that they are important. This past Sunday, I contacted a big outreach ministry here in the United States, and this wasn't a test of the ministry, and it wasn't on purpose like to use for this message this Wednesday. But I was feeling down and kind of lonely, restless, not really sure what caused that this past Sunday. So I told them on the website that through this pandemic that I had reached out to many and heard only back from one person. That recently I had volunteered in my church, and I was told that, well, not at this time because we don't have enough volunteers. That would be a statement from people who are very distracted or stressed out about something, that they didn't know somebody was offering help. But my third part of my message was, could you pray for me? So they replied pretty quickly the next morning. And the reply, though, said, talk to your pastor about volunteering and give understanding because we're going through a pandemic. But there was no mention of my prayer request. So I guess as they were typing, they got distracted as well. My final thoughts this week. At the end of the day, have you helped somebody? When the pandemic is over, don't let God take a back seat again. He wants to be with you every day through the trials and through the pandemic, but also through the good days. Just don't listen to the messages when you hear them, but see what you can use in those messages and put it into use and help others. A preacher once told me that he was working on his message for Sunday, and it took him 3, 4, 6 hours a week, and his son wanted something. And he yelled at him. He said, "Go away. I'm doing my message for Sunday. Don't bother me." He then realized that he was doing the exact opposite of what the Bible said, and the exact opposite of some of the messages he had preached. As always, 1 Peter 5:7 says, "Give all your worries and cares to God, for He cares about you." I hope you find a place that is well balanced and that you can learn from God's Word. I want to thank you for watching this week, watching the last 6 weeks, and God bless.